You are listening to the Tricorder transmissions. Or leave. Episode 23.
Just what the doctor ordered. Right, doctor? I couldn't have prescribed better.
You are now tuned in to Shore Leave, episode 23, your Star Trek Convention community podcast. Tonight we will be continuing our STLV 101 series with part 2, covering convention hours, schedules, events, autographs, photo ops, meet and greets, cosplay, props and weapons policies, and much more. I am Jeff Hewlett, and here at the helm alongside me is none other than my brilliant co-host, Miss Heather Barker. How are you tonight, Heather?
I'm doing pretty well. We're at 63 days.
We are getting very, very close. It's going by so fast.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it.
This is very, very exciting. And like I said, we have two guests tonight, and both of them are returning guests to the show. The first is our roving reporter, Marina Kravchuk. How are you, Marina?
All right. Thank you very much for having me back. It's wonderful.
Of course. How have you been since we've talked to you last?
Keeping busy. Can't wait until the next convention season begins. And it's actually beginning this month. So yeah. I'm very excited.
Are you going to as many conventions this year as you went to in previous years?
Not as many, although I do have about, I think at this point, 5 or 6 scheduled. So I think that's kind of, unless something else extraordinary comes up, that I think that's going to be my limit.
Awesome.
But, and same as usual, Comic-Cons, I tend to limit myself to one day, and then Trek conventions, I try to do the whole thing. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. And finally, our returning guest from our STLV cruise episode, Mr. Jesse Okendo, has returned. How are you, Jesse?
Hey, guys. I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. Good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So, as we said before, this is the second part of our STLV 101 show. And what we're doing is we're giving out as much advice and tips and tricks and inside knowledge about attending STLV that we can. So we've got a ton of stuff to get through tonight. So we're just going to jump right in. And we're going to start off talking about the convention schedule, things like when it's released and con hours and things like that. So Heather, Marina, Jesse, what do you have?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing to know about the schedule is that we don't get the schedule until a week before the convention. It's not the best part of the creation experience.
Not at all.
Because it's nerve-wracking to sit there worrying about what you're going to cosplay what day, if your photo ops that you've pre-purchased are going to conflict with something else, etc. But that is the way of the land. They haven't changed it in the 9 years I've been going. So the Wednesday before is when the schedule comes out.
On the website, they put it down as Tuesday, not because we again have a 5-day convention this year, so it moved to Tuesday. But realistically, my recommendation, basically the week before the start of the convention, you should be on red alert because it can literally drop at any point in this case. And the closest one was in 2015, where I remember my trip was actually, I was leaving on a Monday, and it dropped literally August 4th, and the convention began on the 6th. So it was like literally very last minute for a lot of people who were leaving like the day or two before the convention. And it was like, now I have to literally, everything is packed and I have to stop and start planning. But that was an extreme case. Usually you have at least, I'm going to say on average 3 to 4 days beforehand. 3 is probably more realistic. So be on the lookout.
I would say that, and I'd add that if you're a planner, it's going to probably be the most frustrating part of your experience. If you're like me and you just go with the flow, I mean, the schedule drops and I have enough time to look and see what I want to do. I've already decided what photo ops or autographs I may need, and I'm not a very big photo ops or autograph person. So it's easier for me to plan. But if you're a planner, I feel your pain because I go with a lot of planners, and literally sit there and watch them agonize, which is okay. We're all different people, but the schedule does come out in enough time for you to agonize. It's not like it's going to drop the day you arrive. So I would relax. If it's your first time, it will show up before anything starts.
I try to imagine how difficult it must be for people who are going for the first time. Especially compared to other conventions, usually have the schedule out well in advance. But for a first timer, I can imagine how overwhelming it would be. But it will come out. You will have time. The nice thing is that it gives other people time to potentially make little mini schedules that they've posted to our unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group to share, so that you have a pocket version. When you register, you do get like a 8x10 paper schedule with everything. And so we often recommend that you bring a highlighter from home. And that will help you go through, like, I know for a lot of people, like when they do pre-registration on Tuesday night, they'll sit there and go through the schedule and highlight and start to make their plans for the week. So it's just a good idea. Makes it easier to find things as you're going through.
Yes, and the PDF is available usually before pre-registration. I recommend, if you're like me, my first convention was my 40th birthday gift for myself. And so now I find myself needing reading glasses. And you will need your reading glasses for the schedule, guaranteed.
Well, in my case, I happen to be a planner. So agonizing that thing in 2015, I was ready to pull my hair out because I have my spreadsheets. I'm the person with the spreadsheets, and I had to fill it out because otherwise I can't do that. Start planning on the day of the convention. I know where I'm supposed to be, when I plan ahead. But bottom line is, like I said, 2015 was an extreme case. You have to understand that basically they keep probably dialogue with the agents and the scheduling for the guests all the way into convention sometimes. And we've seen this where they will distribute actually a printed page and say, okay, this page in the schedule booklet is no longer valid because something has changed in the scheduling. And, convention is already ongoing. So it might happen. So that's why it's kind of all very last moment, because things can change at the very last moment, literally.
Yes, prepare for changes, people. I guarantee you'll have at least one.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say for the tech savvy people out there, or people who may have an iPhone. I don't know about Android. I'm sorry if anybody knows about Android. You can jump in here as well. But one good trick for the PDF schedule, if you do have an iPhone and you're looking at it on your iPhone in your browser, there's a little share button at the bottom, and you can click the share button and you'll see an icon and that says Add to iBooks. That can make a permanent copy of it in your phone's iBooks library, and that way you won't need the internet to be connected to look at it again in the future. So you can just reference it really quickly through your iBooks app. That's what I did the last couple of years, so it's always there on the phone.
Awesome. So in the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas Facebook group, we do have a link to, I think it's last year's schedule. And if you search through the group and just search schedule, I think there are some other ones within the older posts, but that'll help give a basic idea of what the convention hours are like, how things are scheduled. Sometimes you have conflicts with things, and that's just part of the problem with these long conventions with lots of things going on. But as far as the autographs and photo ops, creation is pretty good about helping make sure that you get to all of those, as long as you're paying attention to what is going on.
Absolutely. And if it just so happens that you do have a scheduling conflict between what's going on at the convention and what you have, planned during the convention times, a show, play, I don't know, whatever can be happening in Las Vegas, let the staff know, because, Thursday night and you have an 8:00 show somewhere, I don't know, on the strip, and the autographing ran late, that's the most frequent problem that we have when you have autographing running late in the day. Find a staff member, let them know, they will sort it out for you.
Yeah.
Good advice.
So I thought we'd talk a little bit about convention hours, because that's popped up in the Facebook group a lot. So Marina, I'm going to rely on you since I know you've got access to last year's schedule. And again, everyone, last year was the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. So some of I think overall, like, the hours are pretty much the same. It was just, we have the longer day convention, which we have again. But I think for the most part, things stay pretty similar. Like on Wednesday, the convention opened Did it open around noon and then the first person didn't start
Yes.
until
Actually,
3?
I have it right in front of me. So the main theater opened at 2:30. The
Okay.
secondary theater opened basically the same time, 2:45. So you literally have, like half a day for the theaters. I can't recall when the autographs and photo ops started because I actually have it'd be a lot of scrolling if I were to do that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that did open fairly early, which was like 10:30, was the third stage, Roddenberry Stage and Lounge. They started to do, I don't know, various events, like they had an exhibit and they did video recording session for the fan census that Roddenberry was holding. So that sort of thing. Vendors room officially opened at 12 o'clock. So you kind of have this sort of between 10 and 2, the average opening time was midday.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Closing time, again, depending what you were looking at. The main theater closed at 8, so did the vendors room. But then there was Quark's happy hour, so you had still people milling around and doing their thing. So that was kind of Wednesday. Wednesday was a very light day last year. Let's put it this way.
Okay. And then on Thursday, what time did things start? I think like Thursday through Sunday, they kind of stick to a more regular.
Correct, except for Saturday. Saturday was basically, well, it's always packed, and I think it's true across the conventions. So Thursday, things started around 9:30. Main theater opened at the time, and so did vendors room, and everything just went on swimmingly all the way until, let's say, main theater closed at 8:30 at night.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have evening events because, Thursday we had Gold Evening Dinner Party, which would be, I think Friday would be the same thing for the captains. Friday opened pretty much the same. Vendors room opened at 9:30. Everything else, main theater opened at 10.
Okay.
And then, yes, Saturday, the first thing was 8 o'clock. If you recall, they moved Star Trek costume parade all over the place. So 8 o'clock was the Star Trek costume parade, which is not the same as the competition. That was just very nice assembly, walking through the main hallway. Theater itself opened at 8:30, and that was the earliest opening of all 5 days. And then Sunday just went back to 9:30. And this is just main theater. It's kind of usually a typical, because majority of the main events are happening in main theater, and everything else is kind of in between.
And I'd suspect that this year we'll see a lot of what we saw last year, which is where certain parts of the convention have various levels of security. So you could get into maybe where the certain main theater area was, but they wouldn't let you into the vendor's room until it was ready to open. And be prepared that it may not open when it says it's going to open, but depending on what the staff has to do to get the areas ready. I know I was volunteering in the vendor's room, and I woke up after a 2-hour nap from my night before, which is a Vegas norm for me. And I stood in front of that vendor's room for like 3 hours with doggy eyes, waiting for someone to let me in so I can go like fix costumes at Garak. So be flexible, people. Be flexible with the schedule because it is a lot of people, and this will only be the second year that they've extended the schedule this far and this long, and have added the additional content and the additional security as well, which hopefully it'll work better this year than it did last year.
Yeah. So I think overall, again, in the group, this came up like, what all was going on Wednesday. I think essentially, if you had to be there for certain days, what do you think are the best days to be there?
Oh, based on personal experience, it always depends on, I suppose, starting with what is your track. I mean, most of the people, especially when you're just starting out and when you're not going so much necessarily that, you have this family of fans that is also becoming a part of your experience, but you're primarily going to see the guests. Then, of course, it depends, is Thursday going to be the DS9 day? Is Sunday going to be the original series day when you have the majority of the guests appearing? Then that kind of becomes a jumping point. Like, for instance, this year it's the 30th anniversary of The Next Generation. So it looks like that the key day for that particular cast is Friday. Even though, besides Patrick Stewart, chances are, with their own tables, they're probably going to be the other 6 are probably going to be there through the entire convention. So it's kind of difficult to say. I would say, in terms of intensity and just so much stuff happening, Saturdays just seem to be like the crux. That's when so many things happening. Other than that, I was going to say, you have to look through the schedule and kind of determine for yourself, what is that one thing that, well, I shouldn't say one thing, but what is that? Is it the series? Is it specific people that you want to see? And then it becomes you kind of, you build your schedule around that.
Yeah, and I build my schedule around, I think Heather and Jeff and I have talked about this on the podcast before. So I don't really build my Vegas schedule around the creation schedule. I build it around when my friends are going to show up and and what we all want to do together. So I always show up early, and we always have a day or two early where we just do some Vegas. And then we each have our love of the different various versions of Trek. We all get together and do the photo ops, do most of the main theater stuff together, do the captain's party together, and then spend maybe an extra day afterwards. So every day is mandatory. If I were
but
new,
that's how it yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's how it changes. Like once you kind of got your feel of, okay, I've seen the guests, I gotten the photo ops and the autographs, and then it kind of blows up into this whole thing where it's a family reunion. You have to kind of try and get together with all these wonderful folks.
I think for newer people, I said in the group that for me, like if you couldn't get there until a little bit later, like Wednesday, because it's kind of a half day, there's not a whole lot going on. It wouldn't be the end of the world if you had to miss it. But then there was a counterpoint that there's some, certain individuals that will be there that some people may really want to see. I think overall, even though we won't get the schedule till the week before, a lot of the guests have their day already on the creation webpage on the guest page. So it'll say what day they're going to be there. So just make sure to look and see if your favorite people, what days they're going to be there, so that you don't miss them.
And it's funny, they still call them weekend tickets, even though we're expended 5 days now. But
it should be just
honestly, but honestly, I think Friday and Saturday are the biggest days, regardless of who's coming. Those are the biggest days where you're going to have the cross intersection of most guests to, because they're going to cater to the most people coming to the convention, which normally is a Friday or Saturday, because most people can't take all that time off the way, I overutilize my hours at work by 125%, so I can take all these days off, right? So that's why I do it. So anyway, so that's what I do. And so I think Thursday night, the first time I went, I did do a Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, left Sunday, and left happy but unfulfilled because I feel like I missed a lot. But when you check the boxes, like when I got home, I said, wow, I did like 80% of everything I wanted to do that first year. So that's personal experience for me.
I think we might have mentioned it in part 1, but just so that everyone knows, if it's your first time coming or you're planning on coming, the convention really does start on I would say even the Monday before. I know that there's a pool party scheduled already, but as far as like event type stuff with pre-registration starting on Tuesday, you really get kind of an influx of all the Trekkies and the nightlife at the bar and everything. And then the convention really doesn't end until late Sunday night because they have the Rat Pack performance, and I think they don't go on until like 9 o'clock.
Exactly. That's right. Yes.
So that's why a lot of us tend to leave the Monday after, so that you can stay and see those shows, and maybe even pick up some photo ops that you're waiting on, which we'll talk about in a bit. But so there's a lot going on. There's a reason that all of us like to go the day before or leave the day after, and stay long. So I would say if you can do it, if your budget allows, definitely plan on being there a little, like at least the day before and the day after the convention.
I would agree. And to that point, I'd say, one of the biggest expenses that I think we all see is the hotel stay, whether you're staying at the Rio or somewhere else. So I know we'll get into this down in the podcast, but I personally, I get a room and I share it. And I may be in my bed 2 hours a night. For some reason, I can be 18 again when I'm in Vegas. And so you don't really sleep. But, there's a rule. There's like 2 meals a day, 1 shower a day, and at least 2 hours of sleep that I go by. And so I'm pretty good, I think. I'm not sure. Someone will have to correct me if they think I'm crazy by the time Sunday comes around.
Well, you basically surf through the entire week on it's an adrenaline high. You're part apart from the real world, and it just starts and goes, which is why, when PCD comes, that's when you really crash, and it's you have to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
For those not in the know, PCD, the so-called con blues, is post-convention depression, and so you have to be very careful about that, but we'll talk about it later.
We've talked about that on many of our episodes in the past. Yeah. Always seems to come up. So what about, are we going to want to move on to autographs, photo ops, and the meet and greet?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of information lined up on these topics. So starting out with just how you buy tickets, and there's a couple of different ways to buy tickets for autographs and photo ops. So I mean, we've already talked about previously. You can buy them online, of course, ahead of time, and they will charge you that $7 and was it $7.50?
$7.75.
$7.75. Oh my goodness. Service fee for each one that you buy. So you don't get to save any money if you buy multiple ones, but you do save the service fee if you buy them in person, if they have the one that you want left over. By the way, some of the bigger ones sell out before the con starts. So
yeah, it's sort of a balance, because if there's somebody that you really, really want to get, and there is a chance of that particular person's autograph selling out tickets, which may happen. I mean, like Patrick Stewart, that type of level of guest. Then of course, you want to grab it, and then $7.75 doesn't seem so bad. In addition, those people who prefer to be first in line for whatever reason, whether it's health issues or you just really want to, get in, get out. Of course, as you might know, autographs go by number. So obviously, the sooner you buy, the lower number you're going to get, the earlier you're going to be in the line.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, autographs, I mean, and forgive me if I'm repeating this from the previous podcast, you get 3 different types of autographs that you can get in the Vegas convention. You get the ones that you get pre-purchased, so you get the PDF. You get the ones that you can buy a physical ticket at the convention, whatever is left. And then, of course, if you read very carefully through the descriptions of the guests, you have some of the guests who will be signing for free after their panel. Those are wonderful. Those are usually people who, the behind the scenes people. So you have producers, writers, costumers, etc. Very wonderful thing to do. So, if you're interested in that side of Star Trek, the behind the scenes, be on the lookout for that, because you can get 5-10 autographs for nothing. And photo ops, well, same thing. You can get either a PDF or a physical ticket at the convention. And photo ops are, of course, first come, first serve. So we don't care about numbers for those. I suppose we can kind of just continue on with what happens. Do you want me to kind of jump into the photo ops or the autographs? What would be the best?
You have a lot of experience with autographs, right? Because I have very little, so I think it would be great if you want to lead that discussion.
Well, as far as buying, we basically covered it. So it's, like I said, make sure to read through the autographing page. Well, rather part of the page on Creation's website is very clear. Certain things that you have to be sort of on a lookout. There are 13, it used to be 12, I think, but there are 13 autographs that are complimentary to Gold Weekend ticket holders every year. So if you are a planner and you try to be aware where how your time is going to be distributed through the day, basically, if you bought a ticket, whether a PDF or a physical one, for a guest who is complimentary to the Golds, be prepared that you're going to have roughly 300 people in front of everybody else with the tickets. Yeah. So before they even start calling out the blocks of, okay, George Takei 1 through 20, if George Takei is complimentary, then you have to wait until all the Golds are called by row. Now, over the last, I'm going to say about 3 years, they decided to kind of look into the situation, because if you do have, especially headliners, so you from the get-go, you guarantee a lot of people standing in lines, they try to separate golds from regular tickets. So I'm going to say, starting about 2014, they started to put this little note saying golds rows A through F come on this particular, on this day, at this particular time, to this particular room, and you're going to get, and they will give a list of specific, it could be one person, it could be multiple people signing in that room, but it's still something, if it will happen to have, 5 or 6 golds who are not headliners, they might be all signing at the same time in the main theater, and you have to basically, sit there and wait and wait and wait. One sort of a reminder, Creation Convention, generally, and they put it in the notes on the website again, you have to bring something for the guests to sign. This is not necessarily true if you have a guest who's signing with their own table. They will have photos with them. But if you do, buy a ticket, say Patrick Stewart's going to be there at the main theater or perhaps at a separate room. he's going to be there, just him and his highlighters, and that's it. So you have to bring something for the star to sign. Another thing, and it's kind of like a little sort of a picky thing from speaking to people who have, well, I shouldn't say handled, but they were handlers for different guests. If you have, say, a photo and it's in the protector, or it's somewhere in the folder, or it's in your backpack, make sure that you actually have all your stuff out once you reach the table, because it takes up surprisingly long time when you have, 300 people standing in line, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's my turn, and you start digging around trying to get your item out. So it's sort of like a just pure courtesy to fellow fans and of course the guest, because they're going to be sitting there waiting for you to get your stuff together. Another thing about autographs, personalizations. Smaller conventions, it's a little bit easier because obviously you're not dealing with as many people. Larger conventions, and well, let's see, Shatner probably has on average about 800 people in his line. Personalizations tend not to happen for headliners, but there's always a big if. Personalizations happen at the discretion of the guest. So I was there for Whoopi Goldberg when, there was a person walking around saying, personalizations, anybody wants a sticky note? And people who have been to conventions, Vegas, when you have big star with a lot of people, they were kind of, taken aback and like, are you absolutely sure that Whoopi will personalize? They went back behind the stage. Person came back and said, yes, Whoopi said she's going to do it. And she did. So that's sort of, I would say, a little bit of an exception.
That shocked us. That shocked us last year because it wasn't just Whoopi, but we were used to on those autographs where personalizations you just knew weren't going to happen. You knew they weren't going to put your name. And then last year, I think it's the first time I saw where they would come out and say, if you want it personalized, and it was dependent on who was signing. So again, I would recommend here, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Marina, but I wanted to say here, the key takeaway is it may be a lot of paper to read. It may be a lot of information thrown at you, but absolutely keep track of the site and keep track of the announcements while you're at the convention and the schedules that you get and any updates to the schedule, because you may be given a heads up as to who's going to do what, and then you'll be better prepared because you don't want to be that person at the checkout line who's writing a check and didn't pull the check out ready. So no one wants to be that guy.
Jesse's absolutely right. I mean, it's like all these little things where, it's very difficult to miss an autograph, and yet there are still fans, some of the years at least, when it'll be like, oh my goodness, that person left. Meanwhile, there are actually announcements. Miss Valerie is doing announcements saying, look, the numbers list to this. Is there anybody else left for this person? And then it was like, okay, this person left the building, and that's it. So, listen carefully, look on the screens because they will put up the numbers, whoever's signing, especially in the main theater. So they will say, autographs 1 through 75 for whoever. So they put out a lot of information. It pays off to pay attention. Some of the little things that I wanted to point out, generally when you're buying the tickets at the convention, creation tables, both for the photo ops and the autographs, they accept both cash and credit cards. So that's very convenient. Obviously, if you're coming in without any pre-purchase tickets and you decide to do 10 photo ops, I don't know how many people actually walk around with hundreds of dollars in their pockets these days. So, of course, it's very helpful that they have the credit card machines. There are certain limitations on occasion what can be signed. It's a rather well-known case. There is a photo of, it's an alternate shot of the original series cast where Uhura is unfortunately obscured by Spock. And this is the photo that Nichelle Nichols will not sign. So it's one of those things that typically they try to kind of warn people beforehand if something like this happens. Like, for instance, this year we know that Ron Perlman is only signing 8x11 photos. So it could be photos of him, or it could be him and other actors. So you have a bit of a price difference there. But bottom line is they will try and kind of point out like little exclusions, if you will. Let's see, what else? Well, it's another one, kind of like it's sort of a rule that they have. If you have autographs, I'm going to say main theater. I think secondary theater tends to be a little bit lax in that regard. So you have somebody signing, say, Patrick Stewart. There is no photography allowed. So it's not like you can snap a picture of him signing this special item of yours. It's just literally you get in, hello. You have a couple of seconds to interact, if you will interact. And that's it. You get your autograph and you're out.
Yeah. And here it's one of the things to take into account is not to take away from the autograph experience, because I did not do autographs at Star Trek Las Vegas because I tend to like to do those more local where it's smaller. Like I did all my autographs on the cruise when we did the Star Trek cruise, and that was very different experience than it was in Vegas. But in Vegas, you tend sometimes you're surprised because you don't even make eye contact with the talent. They just you hand your object over to a handler who hands it over to the talent who signs their name and hands it over to someone else, and then you get it. And you may get eye-to-eye contact, or you may not. And I can't blame them because they're signing their name about 800 times. But for me, I was shocked. Kate Mulgrew is one of my favorite actresses, and I went to get her autograph. And she saw what I was getting. It was a picture that I had done the year before, and she looked up at me and said hi, and I was shocked. And of course, like I get Star Trek, I went, and she said, "Have a nice day." and then she was signing with Roxanne Dawson, so I was able to interact with Roxanne Dawson. But there are some autographs
of that happening. Yeah, yes. with headliners are rather limited because
they're limited.
I don't want to. I want to call it that way, but in a way, this is probably the one part of their convention experience, the guests, where it's literally a chore. I mean, can you imagine sitting at the table and just signing your name 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 times? And then for those who are actually doing it throughout the weekend, and they've been doing this for decades, it's a little bit horrifying if you think about it. So, I kind of respect when I get extremely or none, interaction during the autographs, because it kind of, I mean, when you have that sort of crowded, environment, if it's somebody, like signing in the vendor's room when you have, you don't have 300 people, 500 people, whatever, then of course, chances that you actually can just stand there and chat and joke. And then if there's nobody standing there, I mean, literally you can stick around for 20, 30 minutes just talking to that person. So that you basically, your autographing experience can run a gamut from, oh my God, I just spent, half a day talking to somebody, to, okay, I got 2 seconds, I got my autograph. And that was very, very expensive 2 seconds, and just get them out. So it varies. It varies. I mean, just personal experience. I've had an experience of getting William Shatner's autograph at very different events. I had one that was, Star Trek Las Vegas. And that, I mean, he's sort of in a separate category because out of all headliner signers, let's put it this way, he's the fastest. I once saw him signing against, I forget who it was. I think it actually may have been Patrick Stewart. They were signing on opposite sides of main theater, and Patrick was still in 400s, and I think Shatner was already in 700s. So like literally, we're talking, holy cow, man is a rocket man. I've had his autograph at a smaller convention, Cherry Hill. He signed a copy of his book, Leonard. That was extremely sweet because it was very relaxed. You still had a couple of hundred people, but you can't compare it to Vegas. And he was personalizing, and he was saying, hi, how are you? I mean, and then, of course, I saw him. I did a meet and greet ticket for Shatner's World in my hometown. So we're talking literally, he had a meet and greet with just 100 people. And that was like, oh my goodness, this is like literally talking to my grandfather. It was, you have a very nice, relaxed atmosphere, and it's just a completely different experience. But going back to Vegas, like I said, you can have everything and nothing. Just kind of think about it. I mean, the bigger the name, the larger the crowd. And of course, they want to get everybody through as quickly and as safely as possible. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah. So I wanted to point out that when you go through the lines for the autographs, that you're allowed to have like your partner, your friend, your spouse, whatever. You can have one or two other people in there. I think the biggest issue is that it's not, you're not bringing in your other friends with tickets that are higher on the queue. It's really just like if, you want to bring your partner in line or whatever with you, they can stand with you in that line as you go and get the autograph that came up in the group the other day. And then, Marina, you may have mentioned this, so forgive me, but if you get multiple autograph tickets, you can use all of those. Like you would go when the lowest number is called, but you can redeem all of your autograph tickets at once. You don't have
at once. Go, that's correct. Yeah.
You don't have to go pop in line and wait again.
Yeah, it certainly saves a lot of time. I mean, I've had occasions where it was I think I had one autograph, and then I decided to get a second one for whatever reason. And it was a difference. It was like going from 30 something to 90 something.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, just whenever they call that first block or the second block, wherever that 30 number will fall, that's it. I just get both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Convenient.
So that's really nice. So I think I'm trying to recall in getting autographs and photo ops, whether I've had any scheduling conflicts myself. And I don't think I've had any major ones. But as we mentioned earlier, it's never a bad idea to approach the creation staff if you know that you have a conflict coming, and they may take it upon themselves to do things. When I was in line for Avery Brooks's autograph years ago, and it was the same night as the captain's chair party. And so there were people captain's chair people in line who they wound up letting kind of cut in front of people. And they didn't just put them all in at once. Like they kind of dispersed them in the front of the line so that they weren't upsetting everybody. But they did go ahead and accommodate those people because, they didn't want them to miss the party. So as long as the person is actually up there signing or up there taking the photo, and you've got a valid conflict, just find a creation person and talk to them because they're pretty flexible.
Very accommodating. I had one conflict last year, and I was two of us were doing a photo op with 7 of 9. I know her name.
Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan. Excuse me. And the friend I was doing it with was getting Brandon Braga's autograph. And I kept bumping myself to the end of the line to where there was no more line to bump at the end of. But Brandon Braga was a talker, right? So we were texting each other, and we approached the creation staff, and they let her hop out of Brandon's line, do the picture, because the pictures take like 3 seconds, and then go back where she was. So again, I know on our Facebook groups and other Facebook groups there is sometimes some creation bashing, if you will, and I hate it because it comes and it goes in waves, but they are very accommodating, and we don't get paid to say that. I mean, they are accommodating if you treat them like human beings. So that's the way I would approach it.
It's very, very true. And actually, yours is the classic conflict that you might have. I've had conflicts with autographs in a couple of years, but it was mostly because I was doing gold, and they would have sometimes, as I mentioned before, where you would have 3, 4, 5 guests who are gold signing at the same time. So they will be literally sitting in the row at like 2, 3 tables, and they will have people lining up, kind of thinking, well, you're going to have a gold ticket holder come up and do all 5 in a row. And it just so happens that one year I only wanted one out of the 5. And I was like, well, should I be standing all these huge lines if like literally that one person, he was sitting all the way at the edge, is sitting there, twisting his thumbs because he people haven't even gotten to him yet. So same thing, go up to the person. I explained my situation. They said, yeah, sure, just go ahead, because the person's not doing anything, and I would be standing there for literally hours probably before I even gotten to him. So yeah, if if there's an issue, there's a question, if there's conflict, let the staff know. And obviously there are certain things that volunteers probably cannot do, then just go to the higher ups. Autographing is practically always run by Valerie. Go to Valerie if there's a problem. Shall we switch to photo ops, because I actually had quite a few notes regarding photo ops.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, photo ops is that's probably the one moment, even though it's kind of brief compared to the autographs. I find it the one that you actually get more interaction, because there it is. There's the person. You can actually say, how are you? And probably shake their hands or bump fists or do whatever. And, and then of course, flash, boom, done. But still, it's a special thing, and you actually get the proof that you met the person at the end. As people might know, it was already mentioned that you have 2 people per photo. There's something that actually got added last year, sort of a new addition to this policy of 2 people per photo op, where now, if you look carefully in the photo op portion of the website, it says that your photo op ticket, your photo op can actually include up to 4 fans. That's the maximum. But of course, that's not 4 fans going on one ticket. You actually have to have 2 tickets, so 2 fans per ticket. There's sort of a minor exclusion, I would call it, to the 2 people per photo as a standard rule. If you have a baby, they will not count the baby. So I've seen a lot of couples with, a small kid or even like twins sometimes, and a lot of actors actually, especially I'm going to say very politely, actresses of certain age tend to go gaga. So it's usually it's a lot of fun to observe, and it's great fun. Everybody enjoys it, and poor Chris has to figure out how to attract attention's baby, so everybody's actually looking at the camera. But it's a sort of a wonderful little aside. The certain things about the photos, if there are no touching, no handshakes policies, they will let you know beforehand. But there aren't that many people who actually do that. More often than not, you will get a handshake and in some cases even a semi-hug. Or if you can ask some of the actors, they will pose, like they will do a special pose with you. But that's sort of also at the guest discretion. So, it's a good thing to be polite and ask beforehand. That's what I would recommend.
By the way, that varies, by the way, very much, I found, across the different actors.
Oh,
I mean, I
yes.
can remember
Big time
being told specifically not to touch William Shatner when we went for our photo op with him. But then we went for a photo op with Peter Weller the same year, and he practically grabbed us and put his arms around us for the photo. I mean, so don't expect anything. Don't go in there with an expectation of what you're going to get from a certain celeb when you take a picture with them, because you're going to have to play it by ear, based on what you're seeing them do with other people who are up there while you're waiting in line and what the creation folks
Absolutely.
tell you.
And it never hurts to ask. If you're not sure, it's like, is it all right if I ask for a handshake? Ask, because folks who work the photo op room, at this point they probably have seen everything, any kind of problem, any kind of person, any kind of special requirements. So they they used to have a somewhat, I don't know if they still do. There was like a little poster in front of the or the very entrance of the photo op room where they had the request of, please do not pick up the guests and do not ask the guests to pick up you. And I think that stems from the Klingon Empire photo op from 2012, where exactly that happened. I mean, those folks, it was Robert O'Reilly, J.G. Hertzler, Gwyneth Walsh, and Barbara March. So you have the Dress Sisters, Gowron and Martok. And they were going all the way out. I mean, literally, they were grabbing people, they were lifting people. I mean, literally, one guy came in and he said, make it look like you're dragging me away. And they hoisted him up and just pulled him in different directions. I mean, that was probably the funnest photo op I've ever been to. But that sort of thing probably no longer gonna fly. So don't try to pick up the actors. Don't ask them to pick you up. Not everybody's John Barrowman, and I heard that he's no longer gonna do that either.
I'll chime in just for a quick second before I forget about this, just so people know who have never done a photo op. There is a place for you to put down your purse or your bag, backpack, etc. if you don't want those things on the photo. It's just there's tables set out right as you're walking up, and you just set your stuff down, and then when you're done with the photo op, you run over and pick it up and leave. Of course, it's leave it at your own discretion, but I've never heard of anybody taking off with anything that wasn't theirs.
Yeah,
It's pretty secured.
Yeah, it's pretty secure. They do have the staff of the photo op room generally. I mean, I've seen those ladies, I don't know how many times at this point, but they have 2 ladies at the front of the door, one who organizes the, basically people lining up before entering the photo op. When they have multiple photo ops especially happening, it's kind of helpful to know who's standing where. One person just generally in front of the door, I suppose, directing people, because you have sort of like a snaking arrangement, a labyrinth made out of tables. You have one person who takes your ticket, and there's usually one person stationed where the tables with the bags are. So they have the place pretty well covered. Once you're done, you actually get one physical copy. It takes, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 hours. They will lay them out. There's an area in the back of the photo op room with a separate entrance where you can go in and pick up your photo. If you wish to have a JPEG, you can do so. There are going to be forms that you fill out. Every photo op has a number. I forget, I think it varies. The smaller creation cons, I think, have the number on the front, and Vegas has it in the back, or vice versa. Bottom line is the picture is going to have a number. So you fill out the form with your contact information, your email address, that's very important, and the numbers. And then at some point, whenever you're done with the photo ops, you just bring it to the photographer or one of his staff with cash. They can't take credit cards, unfortunately. It's $10 per JPEG. And then they say it's a couple of weeks, literally after convention, you should get an email. That's not set in stone, really, because if we're in the middle of the convention season and Creation does other conventions, I mean, they have a lot of supernatural stuff, I think Gotham and all the other shows. So if they're in the middle of the thick of things and they have, like, I don't know, 5, 10, however many events happening in the month, you know, the photographer may be backed up. So you might wait, you might actually remind him that, you know, can you let me know when I'm getting my JPEGs? I've never had any issues. On average, I think within two weeks, I would get an email with a link that you go to, and then you download all the JPEGs.
If you've been to other conventions and this is your first Star Trek Las Vegas convention or even your first Creation convention, don't be shocked. I know it's Star Trek and we're in the 24th century, but the photo ops don't work that way like they do. So you do not get your, and I've never been to any other like kind of conventions or Comic-Con until this year. I went to Calgary Fan Expo and I did a photo op with Jeremy Renner, and we did our photo op, and it was, you know, he hugged us and I was excited, and then I started walking out and my friend grabs me and says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I guess we got to come back." She's like, "No, because the picture was right there." Like as soon as you take the picture, it's there.
All major Comic-Cons, I mean, if it's larger than, I think these days mid-size Comic-Con is about 50,000 people, they typically have Instaprint technology. Vegas, I suppose they still consider, I mean, you have how many people on average during the entire convention? 15,000, 18,000, something like that. So nowhere close. I'm guessing they probably don't think it's worth investing. I can't talk, you know.
We don't
it's
know.
pure supposition. Bottom line is, you know, that's what happens. And very often, you know, if you were planning to have your your photo op signed, it just might happen that the person is actually autographing in the morning and your photo op is in the afternoon.
Yep.
That's happened to me twice where I bought the photo op and the autograph crossing my fingers, and it didn't work out that way. And it's okay because I go back every year, so I just brought it back the next year, you know. But prepare yourself for that because it is different, but you kind of go with the flow. I don't go for the technology of the photo ops. I go for the interaction with the talent. So keep an open mind is my best advice when you do your photo ops.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure with the other conventions because I don't really go to other conventions, but it is just one person, Chris himself, who's the photographer. So, and Chris is Creation's photographer for all of their events. So
they have a couple of others.
Oh, did they get a couple others?
Yeah, now? For the smaller ones, there's also Warner, but it operates exactly the same way. He takes the pictures and then you submit the form, and you get the JPEGs within a certain number of weeks. Something I wanted to point out that, you know, speaking of, when you're doing the official photo op, there's another type of photo op that we actually have to talk about, the selfies. There is no photography during the official photo ops, meaning that, you know, you're standing in that little snaking labyrinth and you have a perfect shot of whoever is standing there that Chris is photographing with another fan. Do not reach out for your camera. Do not reach out for your smartphone, because the ladies are like dragons and they will catch you. So there is no photographing during the official photo ops. What else I wanted to talk? Oh, something to point out. If it just so happens that, suppose you had photo ops Sunday afternoon, and you left. So for you, convention is over. That's it. You had an evening flight. You're gone. So you haven't picked up your physical, you know, the actual copy of your photo. You can go to the Creation has actually a photo op page that you can go to. I think usually within, again, a couple of weeks, they will have a link live going to a specific convention recently concluded. We can look at, you will see a picture there if you didn't pick up the physical copy with a number, and they have the information of how to contact Chris. So basically, they say find the photo op you purchased at the convention, and they have like a whole bunch of pictures. I'm actually seeing quite a few pictures from last year's Las Vegas. I don't know why people didn't pick them up. And then you send an email to Chris with the information and your address, and you don't actually pay for shipping or anything. And within 3 to 4 weeks, you should receive the physical copy. They will send you the manila envelope with the picture. I've heard that people have had delays with that. Again, I'm going to guess because if Chris was backed up or whoever else takes care of actually sending out physical copies, that may happen. But at least it's there available. It's not like you completely, you lost the photo op because, you had to leave early. No, it's there. They will provide it for you. Only one copy. and they actually are very careful. So if you did get your copy and you want to get another one, cheater, it's not going to work because they have all the numbers of, these are the pictures that haven't been picked up. And if you come with yours from home, it's not going to work. Selfies. There are some guests, the ones who are sitting with their tables in the vendor's room, who will actually offer, even though they are doing official photo ops, they will offer a selfie, for a separate nominal fee or as part of a combo with their autograph at the table that you can have with your own camera. So it's very convenient if you know that you're running into conflicts, you have way too many panels and photo ops and autographs all crisscrossing in the time stream. You can actually kind of figure out and see, well, person's there for the entire convention, all 4 or 5 days. You can actually just go and have a picture taken with your own camera instead of going for official photo op. At least you save yourself a little bit of time.
That's my preference. I love the selfies. You won't, of course, the headliners may not do that. I know I've seen Nicole Nichols recently do it because of, she's kind of stays in the vendor's room now pretty much. Garrett Wang is fantastic. He'll have his staff stop everything and pop out and grab your phone and take 4 or 5 pictures to make and then he'll look at them to make sure that they're right. He'll do that at Vegas. He'll do that when I was in Calgary. I mean, he's very personable with his fans. Some of them are that way. Some of them are good luck if you're holding the camera, but it's my favorite because it's the most spontaneous and usually you have more than just a handshake. There's a hand on your shoulder kind of thing. Seems to me more personal than the ones that you kind of get rushed through. So if you have someone that is going to be in the vendor's room, that I would go that way definitely.
Yeah. One bit of technological advice about that too. If you're going to go for one of those vendor room, selfie, quote unquote selfies, if you have a friend at the con with you or someone you've run into, have them come with you so that they can actually take the picture so you can use the camera, the good camera on the back of your phone as opposed to the crappy one on the front. Get your money's worth out of it. That way you can get like a nice full body head to toe and they can maybe take 2 or 3 or 4 while they're standing there. So sometimes you overlook it, you get excited, you take a picture and then it comes out okay, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
I will I'll throw in one last thing here about selfies with celebrities. So I've gotten lucky pretty much every year that I have run into a celebrity on the elevator or walking down the hallway or at a party. So I have quite a collection that I'm very proud of selfies that I did not have to pay for. So I will say this. If you see a celebrity and you're interacting with them, be respectful, be courteous. If you feel comfortable asking for a selfie, sometimes they'll take one with you. Just don't be a creep or pushy or anything like that and expect them to do it. But kind of use your intuition. And if you feel like it's right, you might be able to ask them standing in line for coffee or whatever.
Exactly. Something I learned last year, which I didn't know, and actually one of the talent explained this to me. The last actress who played Zial on DS9, we were at one of the creation parties, and we were talking to her, and one of my friends asked her for a selfie, and she had a handler with her, and she says, "I can't do it because I have a handler here."
Yeah.
But she told us, but if you see me in the hallway, we'll do it. So there's definitely some rules that we don't all know about to the talent, but I've seen Dominic Keating buying a Starbucks and I got a selfie there. That kind of thing is usually pretty cool. You do have some talent and there's the stories that you could tell where they're not really all on board with the creation policy. So they don't follow them very well. Marina Sirtis will take a selfie no matter where you're at kind of thing. So, I would again utilize this group if you have that question, especially the unofficial group, this podcast, because experience speaks a lot more than anything else. And I had to learn from this group before my first year of going, because that if I didn't follow the group the year before I went, I would have had a miserable convention because I wouldn't have known what to expect. So
absolutely. And I'm just gonna echo Heather. I mean, respect is the key. If you don't know, ask politely, so the person's going to say no, but at least, and everybody's, well, if not necessarily happy, but at least, you don't have any kind of issues with the guests.
Well, and you can't ever be upset that someone turns you down for a free selfie.
Exactly. Oh, I was just gonna say, and you can't expect a reason for the no either. So if there's a no, just take it and go.
And move on. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. In no way are we advocating that everyone listening go and like bum rush these celebrities to get a free selfie. I'm just saying that it does happen that you may be in an elevator or whatnot, or have the opportunity. Most of the celebrities are pretty chill and cool. And, if they don't have that handler or other representative there, they may surprise you and be open to doing one. It's important to remember that Star Trek celebrities are people too. They, a lot of us rever them, so we, already, give them a lot of respect. And some people are too afraid to approach them because they're intimidating or something.
And on occasion, I'm sorry to interrupt, is actually that sort of, when you completely freaked out, actually may throw a wrench in your, interaction. Because like Heather said, these are real people. You treat them like real people, they will appreciate it, instead of just going all, having said that, I mean, respect. I just keep repeating this, but I've seen completely, everything to be going fine with, whoever, if you met them in, in the hallway, in the elevator, to you talking to them in the vendor's room, and then on occasion, just, I don't know, if something changes or something, all of a sudden, person's asking for hugs or telling the story of their life. That's already going a little bit beyond. And I realize that, we all have that one special guest that you would really like to tell the story of their life because they made a difference. But you have to kind of give a little bit of thought, even though you will freak out when you meet that one special one. But, try to keep it all inside.
I'm horrible in front of talent. It's taken me quite a while to actually even do a photo op without looking like my eyes are gone because my smile is ear to ear. But so I'm getting better at it. I will tell you, eventually over time, if you go to enough conventions, it becomes easier. It's very intimidating when you do your first photo op. It's very intimidating.
Yeah.
And after that one, it does get easier, and all those photos that you wanted will eventually come. But give it time. Don't expect your first year to go and get everyone that you wanted, because you're going to be, and don't expect every picture to look great, because I have a picture with Nicole Nichols where I can't even tell I have eyes. It's bad.
They do. I will say, Chris tries his best to catch if you blink or if someone is making a weird face or something. He has done it for me before where he didn't think the photo came out, and I got both photos and they were both fine. But my photo with Patrick Stewart, he looks like a grumpy old man, and I paid $200 for that, and so that kind of sucks. But he does his best to check everything, and there is a possibility that you may not like your picture, or that someone is blinking, or someone's just making a weird face. I mean, imagine if you had to smile through hundreds of photo ops. You may not be able to hold that smile the entire time, so you might look a little grumpy. But overall, I think photo ops come out really well. They're my favorite way to invest in a STLV souvenir. So I'm a big fan of them. I recommend them. And just remember, it's that Chris is doing his best. The actors are doing their best. So, the experience is great. It's like you don't just get the photo, you get the little experience too.
Exactly.
Yep. I completely
it's the memory.
agree with Heather. I'm a photo op guy too, just to throw that out there. Big advocate of photo ops. So if you want to do one, definitely get them. They're totally worth it. And one thing I neglected to touch on earlier while we were talking about the lines and the queues and the tables and all that stuff in the photo op room, I just wanted to mention really quickly about the courteousness of the creation folks. If you have a photo op, it'll have a certain date and time on it, right? So that you need to show up to be in line. But if it's a particularly busy one, or you're in a rush, or you want to be at the front of the line, swing by the front of that room. There's a photo op room, and there'll be a person outside of that room, and you can actually ask them what time they'll allow you to start lining up outside the room. before the photo op time frame actually begins. So sometimes they'll allow you to line up 10 minutes to 15 minutes early. So if you have a 2 p.m. photo op, sometimes they'll let you line up at 10 minutes to 2 or quarter to 2. So you might want to consider that if you're in a rush or you want to get in or click too close to the front of the lines. It's always a good option. It's worked for me a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just one other little thing that I wanted to point out. The tickets that you have pre-purchased, if you have for the autograph and photo ops, and that's something that just, modern technology, the admissions tickets, so when you're doing pre-registration and you have your preferred general admission, what have you, they can scan it off of your smartphone, like it tends to be for most things these days, for concerts and plays and what have you. For Vegas, they can do admissions. They can read it off your cell phone. The autograph and photo ops have to be printed. So if you have a PDF ticket for a photo op or an autograph, you actually have to bring a physical piece of paper with, the barcode printed on it and everything. So it's just something to be, mindful that, you can't just show a PDF on your smartphone. They can't read it. They have to actually physically collect that piece of paper from you. Yep. So that's I guess that's my last thing on photo ops, autographs, and just something very quickly to echo something Jesse said. Like the experience of having all these the groups these days where you can actually ask for help. And when I started doing Vegas, I think the unofficial group already existed, or it might have actually existed starting the year after that. My first Vegas was in 2010. I had no clue. I mean, I had experience with a couple of sport conventions beforehand, but Vegas was completely something else. And I remember it was like literally just swimming blind. And then, after a while, you kind of gather that experience that, this person doesn't like to be touched, or during the photo op, we're probably going to be asked that, or during the autographs, do not do this. And it kind of like right now, it's all very comfortable. So those folks who really want more details, don't hesitate to ask. Something very funny just to talk about no touching. The very first photo op I had with Patrick Stewart, there was Richard Arnold standing in front of the line, literally saying to every single person going up to Patrick, "So Patrick, do not touch him. Do not touch him." Yeah. And of course, what's the first thing that I do? I rush up to him and I almost hug him. And he just kind of leaned back and he's like, "Oh, we mustn't do that." Imagine that deep Shakespearean voice. So, you kind of learn over the years that certain things are not exactly welcome for various reasons. Yeah. I mean, he has actually a pretty valid reason for not being touched, as we know. Just FYI, I suppose going forward, like LeVar Burton and Will Wheaton will do fist bumps. They don't do head shakes.
Same thing with Brent Spiner, I think, because I remember that about him. He was just fist bumps, whatever year that was, 2009, 2010, 11, one of the early years that I went. And I did see Patrick Stewart that same year and remember being told not to touch him.
So it's sort of like almost like etiquette to meeting the guests in a way. And before we start talking about meet and greets, when it becomes a little bit more personal, when you have Q&As, it sort of extends to that. I've seen people ask for hugs when they're asking a question. In this case, I kind of touched upon that, try to hold inside. In no way I want to diminish the excitement and, yes, you are meeting this one actor who made such a difference, but at the same time, you have to remember to be being courteous to fellow fans, because we all love these people. We all love this fandom. That's why we're there. So, you have a whole bunch of other people gathered behind you, whether it's a photo op or autograph or a Q&A question line. So, put a little bit of thought in as far as, what you want to do, how you want to do it, what you want to ask.
So meet and greets?
Meet and greets, for what I would touch upon is, so there's two different definitions there. There's the meet and greets that are planned and you can buy tickets for, that are they're either on auction now or on sale on the website.
I mean, I don't know how many people they allow per meet and greet, about 20, I think. Maybe even less.
Is it that many? I mean, because like the link.
Vegas tends to be a little bit larger, but I know the smaller conventions meets and greets tend to be small, like 10 people.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wish that they gave a little bit more information on the website, because it just says meet and greets and then the actor, George Takei, Terry Farrell, and a non-visitor, and really no information. The link takes you directly to the auction. I'm trying to think, like, at least if you
the auction actually should state how many openings there are. Just a quick thing. I mean, I haven't done a meet and greet with a single person, just like that, like when you have a ticket. I've done a lunch, which is something that they used to do. They used to do lunches and breakfasts with multiple actors from various casts. And sadly, they stopped doing that for whatever reason. Those tended to be, they were fun, but they had their cons as well, because you had many more people. You have I don't know, 8-10 tables. So you're talking about how many people, I don't know, 60, 70 people, something like that. And a group of actors would come in. You have an opportunity for like 5 minutes to take pictures of them while they're standing at the door. And then they would just rotate. One person would sit at the table and you can chat, and they will ask you where you're from and your names and what you do and whatnot. And then a handler will come in like, I don't know, 3-5 minutes, tap them on the shoulder, and that's it. They get up, another person sits in their place, and they move on to another table. So it was a very kind of like, yes, great, I got Roxanne Dawson for 5 minutes, and that, that while I was sharing it with 8 other people,
That sounds oddly like the character dining at Walt Disney World.
True indeed. You get Winnie the Pooh for 30 seconds. Yeah,
it does. So I clicked on the link. So if you follow the link for the auction, it'll take you to a page that describes it. And it is 10 fans per meet and greet.
10. It's very nice. And I mean, you actually do get, however limited the time is, nevertheless, it is very nice because it's not going to be, a main theater full, half full, however many people they're sitting there with 50 people trying to ask questions during Q&A. It'd be you and 9 other people, and you have it's much more personal. I've done Q&A, not Q&A, meet and greets as part of a VIP ticket for a Chicago convention. So it's sort of same thing. You have 10 people, you get the actor will come in and will just basically sit with you for 10-15 minutes before they have to go on stage typically. So I found it extremely wonderful experience because it was, like I said, it was very personable. You're just sitting there and chatting about anything and everything.
Yeah, they I wanted to just mention for everyone's knowledge, it does say that meet and greets may not be suitable for those under 17. Please note that children under 6 years old are not permitted to attend. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to buy a ticket to one of these. And no alcoholic beverages. So again, just a meet and greet, getting to chat. I've done a couple of these, not these official meet and greets, but in the past, a group of us bought tickets in bulk from Creation, and so they were nice enough to extend a meet and greet to us, our little group. So there were more than 10 of us, but we basically got to sit in a room and talk to whichever guest. One year it was, John Billingsley and someone, I cannot remember who it was. It might have been Jeffrey Combs. But it was awesome. It was like, I think around 45 minutes, and we just got to sit there and ask all the questions our little hearts could come up with. And we took a group selfie at the end, or a group photo at the end, and got to give them a hug. So I think it's a really fun experience. If it's something that you're interested in spending the money on, I would recommend it, even though my experience was not exactly these meet and greets, but I assume it's very, very similar.
I know when I think of the meet and greets, there's like, for me, it's always the ones that aren't prepared or aren't organized. So it's when you spend you're at the masquerade or you're at karaoke and one of the talent just happens to pop up and you can start a conversation because they're people too and they want to party. I mean, it's Vegas, so those are great. I mean, those are the moments that I enjoy. Those are the moments that you may or may not be able to get a selfie, but at least you had some time. And I will tell you, all the same rules apply. Like, be considerate, be kind, don't be a jerk, and they're human too. They may not be having a great day. So like, don't, if they don't say hi, then don't bash them.
Don't take it personally.
Yeah. They spend a whole day with thousands of people. They may not want to chat with you. They may just want to drink and go back to their room. So, the other meet and greets that I think you kind of find with Las Vegas are planned by fans. So it's I have a newbies meet and greet kind of thing for anyone who's new or traveling alone, so that the first night at the convention you can find someone to kind of hook up with, even though you'll do that on your own, just by the way the convention is set up. You never go to a Star Trek convention alone. I hate to tell anyone who thinks you're going alone, you're not. But there's a lot of fan planned get-togethers, and at some of those some of the talent does show up because they know about it, or someone knows somebody who knows somebody and they'll show up. Be prepared for the unexpected, I guess is what I would say from a meet and greet perspective. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen because it is Vegas. As long as you don't over anticipate that meeting and kind of take it for what it is, a meeting of chance, you're going to have an awesome time. And you'll have at least one of those interactions where you've met someone in the hallway, or you've gotten to shake their hand, or even just said hi. And then you pass by and you go, oh my God, I thought I just said hi to somebody, who you've wanted to meet forever. So keep yourself open to those. Keep your eyes open. So all the folks walking around staring at their phones, put them down for a minute and look, because you never know what you're going to see. And we've become so attached to our phones that we're missing a lot. And so I've been called on the carpet for that many a time. So I'm going to take my own advice this year and put my phone in my pocket as I'm walking around and enjoying the company of others.
So you guys ready to move on to the next big topic, cosplay?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So moving right along. So we have a lot to cover as far as cosplay is concerned, but I think we'll kick this off just by starting with some general conversation about cosplay. I think we've all done our fair share of it. So I know some of us may be more expert than others. So Heather, do you want to jump in?
Gosh, there's so much to say about cosplay. I don't know where to begin. We kind of started at the very end of part one of STLV 101 here and realized it needed a lot more attention than we were able to give. So I've done a lot of cosplay in the past. Overall, I think there's a large percentage of attendees that do. And for those who've never done it, I certainly encourage you to, because to me, it just kind of expands upon your experience. I don't know how to explain it. It immerses you even more into the world of Star Trek and Trekkies. But we have a lot of threads in the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group talking about cosplay that are linked in the STLV glossary in the file section. So I do recommend popping over there and looking through everything. But I think the biggest things that come up, there's a lot of walking involved, as we mentioned before. And so a lot of people have on a uniform or some other costume. And I think one of the most important pieces of advice I can give anyone is to buy comfortable shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is one of the two rules that absolute must.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to be very comfortable in your shoes or you will not make it. I've gone, the first time I did cosplay, I bought these very nice pair of dress shoes and they lasted about 4 hours. And then it was like a dress uniform with white Adidas because I couldn't handle it. So now I have a very comfortable pair of boots that make it through most of my cosplay. This year, I'm doing something special that I'm not going to ruin. It's going to be a surprise like Jeff did last year. So not that I'll be Santa Gorn, but I will be something different that I've never done before. And the first thing I shot for were very comfortable shoes because you're in that thing all day. And with that, you're in that uniform pretty much all day. So as you think about cosplay, think about how long you want to remain in it. So if you're a Borg, that may be why you don't see the Borg costume out from morning to dusk, because that's a quite a costume to put on. You'll see more of the uniform type costumes, cosplay that's very light and airy. You'll see Skimpy. You'll see a lot of Captain's Holiday, which I'm still shocked from the cruise about. But it's all good and it's all fun. Just enjoy, be comfortable in what you're in. And be safe in what you're in as well, which is always part of this whole cosplay conversation is have respect for yourself and have respect for others who are cosplaying. Don't assume because someone's in a costume, you can just go up and grab a picture. It's just like anyone. I would never go up to somebody's baby and just pick it up because he's cute. I'd ask, that kind of thing. So just because someone's dressed like your favorite actress or actor doesn't mean you have a pass to take a picture with them. You politely wait your turn and ask if you can take a picture, and then you wait for the answer. And more than likely, people are dressed up for performance sake. outside of Star Trek, there's a lot of issues with consent and doing things without the consent of the person. So just be careful with that, because last year I think it hit us more than ever, because it was the 50th and we had a lot of different people who we don't normally see at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention. So we're, my hope is we'll get back to that more familiar feel, this year.
Yeah.
But be prepared for a lot of cosplay. Be prepared for a lot of photo ops that you weren't planning on. And just, again, use your common sense and ask permission. And this is definitely not a case where you want to just do it and then ask forgiveness later. You want to ask permission first, because you very well maybe get kicked out if you do something crazy. So
yeah, I will. Now that I'm thinking about it, we did a cosplay podcast last year before the convention with Eric Allen Hall and Brooke Wilkins. And we went over a lot about cosplay in that episode. So I definitely recommend listening to it. And we did talk about cosplay is not consent, and especially harassment of people that are in cosplay. And that could be making comments, that could be touching someone inappropriately. I think people in the group even went as far as to print up some cosplay is not consent posters to hang around the convention, because Creation doesn't really have a visible harassment policy. There is something buried in their web pages, like under their supernatural convention, but nothing that's really visible for the STLV audience. So
right. And we're seeing a different, so STLV, Star Trek overall wasn't, how do you put it without offending anyone? So, it's a more, I like to say, a more professional, a more mature crowd, where we use a lot more, I consider myself older, and I know those things to ask and say and do, but we've got a lot of younger fans coming in who may not have that background or that life experience quite yet to understand that cosplay is not consent kind of thing, especially this day and age. So there's a lot of coaching moments for us as fans to other fans at this convention. I've taken advantage of them, and usually well received, sometimes not well received. But either way, I think Star Trek fans look out for each other more than anything. And that's definitely what I would say is keep eyes on your friends, keep eyes on your buddies. And we all have those nonverbal signals that say, this guy's creepy, get him away from me. So definitely do that.
Yeah. And I think an easy thing to do, if you see somebody that looks like they're very uncomfortable, you can always go up to them and just say, hey, are you all right? Or can I talk to you or something, and pull them aside. I would love to say that I've never been harassed at a Star Trek convention, but it's not true. I love to say I've never been inappropriately touched by someone while I was in cosplay at a Star Trek convention, and that's also not true. I do agree that overall it's a much more mature crowd, and people are genuinely very respectful, but it doesn't matter what gender you identify with. Like, I have heard harassment stories from everyone.
Exactly.
So it may happen, and we just urge everyone to please be respectful. Ask before you take a picture. If you want to get a closer look at a prop that someone's made, ask them if you can have a closer look, and just err on the side of caution. And if you do get to take a photo with someone, there's no reason to touch them. If it's your friend, if it's someone and you have that level of comfort with them, they're okay with it, then sure. But if it's a stranger, please just be courteous and don't put your arm around them. Don't touch them in any way. It's just better off to not do that than to do it and make someone uncomfortable, even if you may not intend to do it, but it could still make that person uncomfortable. So that's just
and it kind of goes the other way too, right? Because sometimes you have people in costume who grab you. I have had haunting pictures where I wasn't expecting to be grabbed by a Borg, and I was so it works both ways, right? So, you are more than welcome to say to those people, hey, this is making me feel uncomfortable, and they will understand because they're cosplayers. Before we go off this topic, though, I wanted to kind of throw a little blurb about Garak's shop. So I am a proud volunteer for Garak's Fix-It Shop, which for new timers, it's a tailor shop within the vendor's room where we provide emergency costume repair So if a button falls off, if your zipper goes crazy, if a seam breaks, we can help you with that. You just come to the vendor's room. Depending on how busy we are, we can get to it right away, or we may ask you to bring the costume, leave the costume with us, and we'll give you a call back once it's ready. We do have privacy screens. Please don't undress in the middle of the which I've had happen to me before. Don't take stuff off without asking. Please ask consent before you undress in front of us. But it's a free service. Creation has generously provided for us to do that, and it's all volunteer led. Brooke Wilkins actually leads that group, and I am very proud to be a part of it. I am not much of a seamster, but I can sew a button and I can fix a zipper, and I can even do some makeup fixes now, thanks to the things I've learned from that group. So take advantage of that. I don't know where it'll be in the vendor's room this year, but you'll definitely see us. And we do take donations for local charities while we do that, since we're not charging, but we like to give back to the community. So that's my plug.
Awesome. I will also mention that you could tip people at Garak's with water or candy or some kind of nice little reward to show them that you appreciate their service.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And sometimes it's a long shift. So if you bring me lunch, I will be more than happy to take it from you.
That is a good one. We'll make sure that happens while you're there. So I know, overall, I try to be really comfortable with my cosplay, and I don't go overboard. I don't wear masks or anything like that. There are some very elaborate cosplays out there, and one of our very own here probably has a couple words of advice for doing a cosplay that involves wearing a heavy Santa suit and a Gorn mask.
Oh, good God, yes. This is mostly for people who are inexperienced like I was. Last year was my first year actually dressing up and coming up with an idea and getting the stuff and dressing up. But one thing I failed to do ahead of time, I had all the stuff at home. I put it on. I made sure it all fit and it worked. And then I took it back off. I didn't wear it for any length of time. I didn't wear it for even 5 straight minutes. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Once I got to the con and I got myself all done up, and every inch of my body was actually covered. Nothing, no skin was exposed. And the mask, of course, is rubber. So I have to come down the elevator, walk all the way down the hallway, through the casino, all the way into the convention space, and it's crowded and it's getting warm. So the first day I wore this costume, after about 30 to 40 minutes, I started to realize that I was quickly becoming dehydrated and very, very, very uncomfortable. And I wound up having to abort my first walk around. I got all the way to the vendor's room and had to turn around and go back. And by the time I got back to my room, I was literally shaking and I had sweated out. All my underclothes were completely soaked. So I learned my lesson. And the next day I was a little more careful, and I took frequent breaks, slipping into the men's room and being able to take the mask off for 10 minutes. And then put it back on and go back out, drink water, things like that. So if you're thinking about doing something, get all the stuff together, wear it for a little while at home, walk around in it, get the feel for it so you know how it weighs on you and how it's going to affect you. Because I had to actually lay down for an hour and drink a lot of water to feel better. And I still couldn't, I didn't feel totally right the rest of the night after that. So just be safe when you come up with these ideas and try to execute them.
Awesome. So every year they seem to do different things with the costume parade and costume contest. Looking at their website now, all the cosplay information for the days of cosplay, the costume contest are under events and parties, and it's kind of scattered throughout their webpage. It will be in the schedule as well once we get that. In the past, they've always done at least one of these like massive group photos on the main stage. So I don't remember, like, if I think that was the same day they did the costume contest in the past. Marina, can you tell in that?
I can. So Saturday morning was, that's a reason I wasn't participating in Star Trek Costume Parade, because it was 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Yep. And I was basically dead on my feet. And the costume contest was also in the main theater at 6:30 p.m. in the afternoon. So yes, it was on the same day.
So you had a costume parade first thing in the morning, and then they expect you to wear your cosplay the entire day until very late in the evening for the costume competition. So just be prepared for that. I mean, you might consider, if you're going to do the parade, putting on your cosplay, taking it off, and then putting it back on later.
Santagorn will not be in the parade or the contest.
Yeah,
I definitely recommend that scenario. So if you want to do the costume parade isn't necessarily the people who are doing the costume contest either.
Right.
So you may be doing the costume contest. It doesn't mean you have to do the costume parade or that you have to have your whole elaborate costume for the parade, because it may be something you want to do as a surprise for the costume contest, right? So just as long as you know that those two are separate and you're smart about how you decide to do that. So again, if you don't have a room at the Rio, there's probably 3,000 other people on this Facebook group who may have a place for you to stash a costume.
Yeah.
Let me know. I have a room. I mean, I wouldn't just go up to anybody and say, "Can I put my costume in the room?" But, just make arrangements, if you will. Even I've known people have used the bell desk and said, "Can you hold my bag?" And it's their costume. So.
Yeah.
Just plan ahead. I can't say any better than that. Is plan ahead, because my first year I did not know how to plan ahead. And by the end of one day of being in just a uniform, I was exhausted and dead and thought I had made the biggest mistake I've made in going to the to the convention, because I've yet to see a uniform costume that's not black, and black in the summer in Las Vegas was not a great idea. I'll just say that.
Probably not. So from the website, the costume contest plans is still to be announced for this year, but generally it's on Saturday. I think we're safe in saying that you can plan on Saturday being the costume parade and costume contest. There is $1,000 prize for best in show at the costume contest. It's a lot of fun to just go and sit as a spectator and cheer for the costumes that you like and everything. This year they're doing something different, and I'm going to mention it, even though please keep in mind that this may not happen in future years. We try to make these podcasts general so that they can apply throughout upcoming years, but you never know. So what they're doing this year is on Sunday a cosplay mashup day. Over the years, we've seen a lot of very neat Star Trek cosplay mashups. So there was Star Trek / Disney characters last year.
Yep.
And we've had Star Trek Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Trek Minions, Star Trek Lego,
Star Trek Star Wars, which was
Star
very
Trek
successful.
Star Wars.
That was fun.
Vader Borg, yeah.
All kinds of really neat mashup ideas. So they're going to do a separate contest for that on Sunday. It says early part of the day, Sunday, and they're planning on doing a prejudging and then a finale with a $750 gift certificate for first prize. I think it does not specify, but in previous years with the Saturday cosplay contest, they have done prejudging earlier in the day. So I don't know if they're going to continue doing that, so that the cosplay contest isn't 300 people. It's like the finalists from earlier.
It makes sense if they did again. I mean, we're talking fairly large crowd of people. So maybe that's why they still have it as information pending. Maybe they're still working out where to put it, where can they fit it.
I want to say that last year they had the cosplay parade, and then they did the prejudging directly after that, and then came back, at night to do the contest with all the people that made it to the finals. I think that's how it generally works. So if you're going to enter, just be prepared that you may do a prejudging in the morning and you may not make it to the finale, or you might.
Yeah, even once they condense it down, there is still like standing room only on that stage. So, I can only imagine what the prejudging is like based on the actual contest that we all get to see. So,
yeah, I've never done it. And I think that's also when they do the big group picture of like everyone who did the costume parade. I think they do that on stage. But in similar fashion, there are a ton of group photo ops planned throughout the convention, like every single day of the convention, that are organized by fans. So I recommend joining a few different groups on Facebook. Of course, ours, Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group. Right now, there are not any cosplay photo ops that we have organized. There may be one or two that we'll update you on, but other people are allowed to post theirs in our events thread. That's also linked in the STLV glossary. And then I'm trying to think, there is the Star Trek cosplay group on Facebook. And so I think they advertise a lot of the events there. But like some of them are, if you wear your Wrath of Khan dress uniform, the Monster Maroon, they do a big Monster Maroon photo op. They've done everyone in their DS9 photo op, everyone in Voyager, everyone in TOS. All kinds of group photo ops that you're going to find via social media. Those are not advertised by Creation, just by fans in the groups.
And though there are some that Creation does put out. So like they'll say on this day, if you're in Voyager, come and meet at a certain time.
Yeah.
And do, all the Voyager and it's not organized. The only thing organized by Creation is the location. So pretty much if you see that on the schedule, it means that you show up in your Voyager uniform and people are taking pictures of this big group. So bring a friend to take a picture if you're in the group, because it's not, you may not see this as an official picture in Creation pictures, but it is fun. It's fun because you get to see the other costumes that people are wearing for their particular series. You do see the Wrath of Khan, which is the more of a fan-based one. What you'll see from Creation is more DS9 Day, Voyager Day, TOS Day, TNG Day, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so those are really fun. I've done different ones throughout the years. I don't have any planned this year. We have one little surprise one that we'll talk about later on. But anyway, they're really fun, and if you're going to go through the trouble of doing a cosplay, you might as well enjoy it to the max, and that is one of the most fun ways to participate. So in addition to what we're wearing, there's also the subject of the props that we're making this year. Well, okay, so last year for the 50th, they did up their weapons policy. Beforehand, Creation had never really had a weapons policy, right? Like a prop weapon.
No.
See,
no, I think last year was the first.
Was the first time, yeah.
And boy, was it! That's all I'll say.
Yeah, they. I was doing the Augment cosplay last year, and so I used my my mechleth. I bring my mechleth for that cosplay, and when I saw the weapons policy, I was really kind of like, oh, do I even bring it now? Because it's a blade. I mean, it's not a particularly sharp blade, but it is an actual steel blade. And I wound up not bringing it in. But essentially last year, in addition to their beefed up security, they had this weapons checkpoint. So you would take your prop, which I think it was mostly just prop weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So you would take that up to one of the service desks, and they would look it over and give you a little sticker. And so you'd have to walk around with it with the sticker. And I will say that I felt like through the course of the convention, they got very lax about that rule.
They did.
Yeah.
So if you remember, like the first day, the line to get in was absolutely insane because of they were not only checking props, I think they were checking everybody to start with, just to see if you had a prop. And so you looked at the line and it actually looked like the pre-registration line from the night before, right? And so
only much slower. Much slower. Yeah.
So like I didn't have any bags or anything, so they thankfully let me just walk on through because I had to go to Garak's. But over time, something had happened, and then those lines started to go down. Where I think it was they're learning, and they brought in an outside company to do it, and I think we just have to give Creation a chance to figure out and learn from other conventions, which I think they have, because I know I've seen different Creation things going on here recently. So we'll see. I know we've got a few experiences that have happened recently. So it's like a cross your fingers and let's see what happens kind of thing, when this stuff comes up. So I just be patient with them, guys. It's all I can say. It's all for our safety. So you can't really fault them for that.
Bottom line is, I mean, given the recent events at Phoenix Comic-Con, things are going to be changing. I mean, already you have at large Comic-Cons pretty, well, I wouldn't say limited, but there are already cosplay prop policies and rules that you have to follow. Yeah. I know Wizard World, at least at Philadelphia, but I would assume that they probably do it at all their locations. They've had weapons policy for quite some time. I mean, where there are certain things, like weapons that actually do like real blades, they will not let you through with it. Last time I was in Wizard World Philadelphia was 2014. I mean, I was walking through the door. There was this giant, basically like a trash can, one of those large round ones, just filled with, well, all sorts of, spears and God, you name it. And it looked realistic, even though some of it was made out of carton, but it looked realistic enough and they didn't let it through. Some of the weapons that do look, you can, if it doesn't have especially that orange bit at the top, so you can mistake it for an actual fire weapon. I believe they did some sort of like the same thing, not stickers. They put some sort of well, I'm about to say wristband, but some
zip ties,
plastic zip ties. That's it. Thank you. Basically, it's just to indicate that this is that this has been checked. It's not a real thing. Now with what happened at Phoenix Comic-Con, I've heard. I mean, I saw Denver Comic-Con, which is the new Comic-Con I'm trying this year, they made changes to their cosplay rules. I've heard that Philadelphia might have some adjustments. So chances are, I mean, things might be getting tighter in that regard.
Keep an eye out. I know that Heather and Jeff and I will, keep an eye on the unofficial group, and if we see something, we'll see it posted. But keep an eye on Creation's website, because you never know when those policies update. It's like airplane policies; they can update at any time. So before you travel, take a look at it, because you may be bringing something you'll never get to actually show at the convention.
Yeah, I reached out to Creation last week because someone asked about weapons policy, and they've not gotten back to me, but I did share last year's policy in the group in that thread. And I mean, it was pretty common sense, like no functional firearms, including stuff like air guns, paintball guns, pellet guns, realistic replica firearms, sharpened metal bladed weapons, which is why I wasn't sure about my mechleth, explosives, mason pepper spray, real I mean, this really refers to real weapons, something
exactly.
that is definitely going to cause harm to a person. I think that as long as your prop, even if it looks realistic, as long as you can prove, oh, it's actually foam, or, no, I can't hurt someone with it, they'll probably be a bit more lenient about allowing those through. I'm not expecting them to be like, no phasers at all, nothing, you can't bring it. I think they'll allow you to have props as long as they're props.
Yeah, you would. I doubt you'd see a total ban on it, because you just go to the vendor room and buy one. So
Exactly.
that's kind of the way it works. But common sense is the key, I think, there, and being smart about it. And one of the things that came up in the group that I want to touch on was someone had mentioned about the hotel policy, because we're hosted by the Rio, and I honestly, I've never looked at the Rio's weapons policy, but if it's like any other one, they have a minimal weapons policy. So I've never gotten scanned going into the Rio. I do see their security kind of keeping an eye out on people to make sure there's nothing funky going on. It's normal Vegas security, cameras everywhere kind of thing. So the casinos in the casino area, will keep an eye out. In the convention area, we're kind of, I'm sure those have cameras and are secured as well, but common sense, keep your eyes on your surroundings. And the buddy rule worked in kindergarten, and it works, at this age too. Keep with a buddy so that you can stay safe is my best suggestion there, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I thankfully have never seen anything bad happen. I've seen some weapons that I've wondered, how did they get in here? But I've been to conventions where I've seen real life swords being sold and taken out. So you just never know.
I'm pretty sure they've had those at STLV. I think there's a vendor, at least up until last year, who had swords, katana, and all kinds of things like that. Like Jesse said, keep an eye on the group, keep an eye on the website. We'll keep everybody updated. But for general STLV advice, I think most of your props are going to be okay. You may just want to ask them about like a batleth or a mechleth, something with an actual blade.
And it doesn't hurt for everyone listening. If you have a question on your particular prop, while it's great to ask us in a group or ask a group or someone who's been to convention, I would say the best thing is to take a picture and describe it and send it to Creation themselves and ask them. Creation is very responsive to emails normally. I mean, I know they're probably holding on to Heather's, wondering how they're going to answer it, because Heather does send them emails that require a lot of thought sometimes. But they always answer. So just
they do.
But reach out to them, and if you have any concerns, you've got plenty of time to plan. While some of us aren't planners, there's definitely some areas you need to plan on. I, for one, will not have a weapon with my cosplay, and you will be all very excited for that one. So.
So, okay, I guess that gets the cosplay topic pretty well covered. So I think we're going to end our part 2 of our STLV 101 course for you guys out there. And keep your eyes out. I think we're going to have to go for a part 3 here. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Yeah, we have a lot left to cover here in our agenda, so we didn't get through everything. So, guys, stay tuned out there for part 3 coming up very soon. But we're going to quickly say goodbye to everybody here. So, Jesse Okendo, where can people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter at Trekker_Jesse and on Facebook at the Jesse Okendo. And if you're in the unofficial group, I'm very vocal and loud, so you can follow me or tag me or do whatever you want there.
Yeah. So, and Marina, where are you online?
You can find me on Facebook, Marina Kravchuk, and Twitter. The handle is at Dracorex, DRAKKOREX. If you are trying to contact me on Facebook, I'd probably recommend shooting me a quick message. I don't know what it is. The convention season's speeding up, and I'm getting swamped again with people I just literally don't know. I mean, some I recognize visually, others I see that, we have 48 friends in common, but I don't know who this person is. So shoot me a message. Twitter is probably the easiest way to contact me, but I know that sometimes people have preferences, Facebook versus Twitter. And that's it.
All right. And Heather Barker, where can people locate you?
I am LLA Posper on Twitter, and then I'm on Facebook. Just find me, one of the admins for the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group. And I just have to second that with Marina, that I really would appreciate a message if that's how you find me, because I've got like 15 pending friend requests from dudes I've never met and don't know. And I'm not going to be adding those people. So if you want to be my friend, please send me a message.
All right. And I am Warp Factor Jeff on Twitter. And I'm also an admin of the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas Facebook group, along with Heather and moderator Jesse, which he didn't mention that before, but he is a moderator as well.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and if you're interested in more about our show, you can check out our website at thetricordertransmissions.com. We also have a Twitter for this show, which is at Shore Leave, and the network as a whole is at Tricorder Show, and we're also on Facebook.com/the Tricorder Transmission. So you can catch up with us on all sorts of social media outlets, and we look forward to catching up with all of you next time on Shore Leave. Thanks again, everybody, for being here.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time on Shore Leave. Hi there, thanks again for listening. If you're cruising the galaxy looking for even more Trek talk, why not visit our good friends Bill and Dan over at TrekGeeks.com? They've got a great podcast that covers a wide range of Star Trek topics, so you're sure to find something you'll love. And if you're in the mood for some awesome tunes, then you really need to head over to 5yearmission.net. The guys are writing a song for every episode of the original series, and each one is absolutely brilliant. So that's TrekGeeks.com and 5yearmission.net. Check them out today.